If you can concentrate on digital stuff, that's going to either save your physical business or take it from a little bit profitable to way profitable, because you can bring in money from around the world, not just in a local service area.
Right.
So that would be my main thing. Get into digital information products, because the low risk, super high returns.
Our guest today has never had a job. You heard that right. He's never had a job. He's an internet multimillionaire, guy next door, and founder of the only licensed dedicated internet marketing school in the country. He has owned a practical joke company, Nightclub, and various other businesses with some pretty crazy stories. Welcome to the show, the subject of Hollywood documentary, The American Entrepreneur, premiering fall 2022, host of the Screw the Commute Podcast, Tom Antion.
Hey, what's happening, man? Well, there's one thing. I did actually apply for a job one time. It said it had a 401k, and I thought, man, that's a great starting salary.
That's
$401,000.
Yeah.
Didn't get that job.
That's awesome. I don't intend on applying for a job anytime soon, as I'm an entrepreneur.
It would be
like
fruitless
yourself.
for me to do.
I would do it maybe for fun. We should just do it. That would be cool. That would be a good podcast.
I had a practical joke company, and it was like Candid Camera, where we did custom design practical jokes, and I would apply as an applicant, and then I'd start eating dog biscuits during the thing and barking. And
is this on YouTube? I mean,
didn't happen. This was long before YouTube.
You got to do the old VHS to DVD, and then convert that from DVD to streaming. We got to bring you up to the 2020s here. That is super cool. It's actually one of the first things I wanted to dive in with your story. Before we do that, guys, I wanted you to know, thank you for being with us. If you're listening right now, or if you're watching us on YouTube, you can visit Antion.com, and all of Tom's social media links are clickable in the show notes, as well as his website. So it's super easy to find him and connect. You don't have to worry about spelling his last name. I did it for you.
I got a good freebie for him too later, that they're going to thank me. They're going to thank me like this once they get it.
Awesome. Yeah. So guys, take Tom up on his word there. He's got some goodies for you. And hey, a wise man once said that you have some pretty crazy stories to tell, right? And so I'm here for it. I know our audience is certainly here for it. I want you to share the initial idea and concept. You just hit it, the practical joke company. So how did that ever produce revenue? Was it just something you did for fun?
Okay. Yeah. So it came about because I had just spent the last 6 years of my life, 7 days a week. Remember, I never had a job. I've always worked out of my home. And I had the second biggest nightclub in the state. And I actually lived above it. So technically I had a nightclub in my basement. Right. So it was 7 days a week for 6 years. I was in gunfights, knife fights, bikers trying to kill me. And then the drinking age went from 18 to 21 in this college town, and it wiped me out. I lost like $400,000, the whole thing down the drain. But I got injured, no health insurance, and I was laid up in a vacant house my buddy had on a mattress, couldn't walk. 3 years, I tore my Achilles tendon, which is worse than breaking your leg. And I'm sitting there watching a black and white TV on a table, which most of your listeners never even seen one, let alone heard of one. Right. And I'm watching Candid Camera. And I'm thinking, everybody loves Candid Camera, but they can't really participate in it unless they happen to live in California and get caught by the Candid Camera. So I said, I'm doodling a little devil sticking his tongue out at you. And I'm thinking, that's a cool thing. And so that's my federally registered trademark for a company I started called Prank Masters.
Is that something I can pull up on? I can find that easy.
No, because this was in the 80s. This was,
Well, if I can dig up that logo, I'll put it up on the screen.
I have the logo. I can send it to you later.
Send it over.
So I moved to Washington, D.C. I needed a big city to do this. I still could barely walk. And starved to death for 6 months, eating chicken dogs and the high rent, sticker shock, high rent in D.C. And then the I did all kinds of crazy acts. So I did this act called an over the hill preacher, where anybody turning 30, 40, or 50, I'd come in dressed like a priest and do a last will and testament for you. And I got plenty of stories about that, how that went. But
so that could make money. You're doing parties and obviously
well, wait till you hear this.
I mean,
yeah. So the Washington Times got wind of this, and they did a feature article on me with the casket set up, and we had these old looking dummies and me dressed like a priest and everything. And so I started getting pretty busy. And then, the papers watch each other. So the Washington Post picked it up, which was way bigger than the Washington Times. And I started getting really busy. And then the Associated Press picked it up. 1,500 radio and TV stations around the world were calling me for interviews, and it just blew up. I was doing, I wrote custom humor for 6 years straight. I had 35 people working for me. And what was funny was the craziest jobs were, remember, we're DC, everybody's lawyers and accountants, right? The craziest, most bizarre requests we had would come from lawyers and accountants, but they wouldn't let us use their names on our testimonial list. Right? They didn't want anybody to know. Right? It had
to be anonymous, but they got in on the fun. They just didn't want to be, so they couldn't let anybody know that it happened, right?
So I was doing radio and TV all over the world. I was making $100,000 a year myself. I did about 1,000 of the comic performances myself. But the whole time, Mike, I was thinking there must be something bigger for me. I know one of your guests talked about going forward all the time. PJ, I think it was, and so I'm in Crown Books in Lanham, Maryland, Greenbelt, Maryland, where it was. And I'm looking at books. It's the middle of the day. I do set my own schedule, so I'm a book freak. And I moved to let this lady go by pushing a baby stroller, and I hit my head on a book, and it's called Speak and Grow Rich by Dottie Walters. And I picked it up. I said, this is perfect. I'm funny as all get out. I'm a great business person. This is perfect next step. All right. So I took a consultation with her, and now I've done over 3,000 speeches in 12 countries. And I haven't done one for less than $100,000 in the past 22 years. So until the pandemic hit, and then I haven't been on a plane in 3 years, and I'm thrilled about it. So
dude, that's incredible. It's almost like the apple with Newton, right? Hits him in the head.
Right. Hit me in the head. Yeah. That's a much more bizarre story, because Dottie Walters was considered the grandmother of professional speaking, but her career started. Why is this is so bizarre? And I'm not really much of a woo-woo kind of guy, but this was really woo-woo, because she started her career pushing a baby carriage, selling advertising door to door. And I had moved to let a lady go by that was pushing a baby carriage, and I hit my head on her book. That's like about as woo-woo as I get.
Just one of those situations, if someone met you right in that moment, you'd have some explaining to do.
Exactly.
I've had a few of those moments.
How that spun off is I ended up volunteering to help her in her seminars around the country, just to learn, because I'm a continuous learner. It's a concept called Kaizen. Japanese concept, continuous improvement, continuous learning. And so for free, I would help her at these seminars just to keep learning. And she ended up passing away, and her I was known as her right coast. She was from Glendora, California. I was from the East Coast. Her right coast son. That's what they called me on the left coast. And they asked me to speak at her memorial. So I spoke at her memorial. And I met a lady in the crowd, for maybe 2 or 3 minutes. Hello, how are you? There's all kinds of people there. And then a couple years later, turns out she's a documentary producer who had done documentaries about all kinds of big shots, Olympic athletes and everything. She had secretly started following me, and she approached me about doing a documentary. And I'm like, wait a minute. I thought you had to be dead to have a documentary about you. I don't know if this is a good idea. This is an omen. And turns out you don't. And so it's supposed to come out this fall.
So then the priest showed up and they said, hey, we're here for your documentary celebration, Tom.
Oh, man, that was so much fun. I mean, I spent 6 straight years just laughing my behind off because I'm writing custom humor for myself and the other people that work there. So one of these over the hill parties, all right, I'm in McLean, Virginia, fancy, one of the richest zip codes in the world, and the fancy mall there. And Tyson's Corner, I think it's called. So I'm walking down the mall in my priest outfit, right? And nobody knows that this is a joke, so everybody's going, hello, Father, how are you? And I'm just going along with it.
Your space and everything, right.
So I go up and I do the job, and it's, there's not one job that I ever did, and people were having such a wonderful time. And it just makes me feel good. It just glowing after this job. I'm coming back through the mall. Yeah. But I have a little bit of an ornery streak in me, Mike. And I'm passing Victoria's Secret, just as a priest, right? Right? And so,
this is way before smartphones too. So this would have gone viral for sure.
Yeah. So
people are tuning in and getting the idea. They're gonna replicate this.
I know they're ahead of me.
I know where it's going, but I got to hear it.
So I go in and I pick up the sleaziest little tiny G-string I can possibly find in the store. And I go up to the counter. Now, these young girls that work there are taught, your sales guy, they're taught to say something about your sale, right? And so they're like sweating against the cash register, like, my cousin got this last weekend and she really liked it, and I'm like, and now this is not as funny now as it was at the time, but I said, straight faced, I said, the altar boys are going to love this. And I walked out of the store, and I know nowadays it's not as good, but
you actually paid for it just to go through with the gag?
Yeah.
I was out of there.
Oh no, that was just a freebie for my own edification.
Yeah,
but
no, you actually went through with the full gag, like you bought it to make them think.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. And I guarantee you, it's on some training tape for Victoria's Secret somewhere.
Oh, dude, that's funny.
So we had there was 4,000 of those in 6 years we did. I did 1,000 of them personally.
That's great. Now you lived above the nightclub, which is kind of cool. I know, being a business owner, entrepreneur, do a lot of networking. I've met a lot of people in the last 5 years since I launched my business that have really cool stories where they're like, I'm working from home within my business, which is cool, which is not that uncommon anymore. But there's stories where I know people who have like restaurants, and they either live like, there's a famous restaurant, Ilio de Palos, where it's the family, and there's actually like the house next to it that that the family owned and stuff, and it's got history. So obviously you had this moment where you were running a nightclub, interestingly enough, in your basement, as you called it, which is kind of neat. Wondering how you ever got any sleep if you ever did. Now talk about that, being that close to it. You had basically instant VIP access to anytime you walked in there, right? Which is great, but it sounds like there's some trouble that happened there too. So share a couple of stories about your time as an owner of a nightclub. I think that's interesting too.
Well, first of all, this was in Morgantown, West Virginia, which, I went to college on a football scholarship. It was a top 20 football school. And after I graduated, I went outside. There was kind of a resort area called Cheat Lake. And it was it's quite a dichotomy. You had multi-million-dollar houses on the lake. And a mile back from the lake, you had trailers with outhouses. I mean, that's the kind of place West Virginia was. Yeah. And so, I don't know, call me crazy. I took over this biker bar and decided to clean it up into a nice restaurant, pizza shop, and family place. And those bikers, I don't know, Mike, they just didn't appreciate my efforts so much. So I was in 2 gunfights, knife fights, over 100 violent encounters. And
how long did you own it?
6 years. Yeah.
Okay. 6 years.
6 years, 7 days a week for 6 years. I got 4 days off a year. And one of them didn't count because it was New Year's Day, because New Year's Eve was such a big blowout. You're exhausted. So the 2 gunfights that we did have, remember, this is West Virginia. There was 1 sheriff and 1 state police for 300 square miles. Okay. So after the gunfights, the next day, the sheriff comes out And he says, "Hey, Tom, I heard you had some excitement out here." I said, "Yeah." He says, "Anybody get hurt?" I said, "Well, they didn't get me. I haven't seen those guys around." And he stood there for a couple seconds. He said, "All right, be careful." And that was the whole investigation.
Something like out of an SNL skit.
Well, the thing is, it was totally true. I carried a gun all the time. I still do. I carry a gun. I live in Virginia. Carry a gun all the time. After you're 7 days a week for 6 years in fear for your life,
basically, self-defense.
You become more. And I turned it into a business. I have a side business called Brutal Self-Defense, another website.
Really?
Which is something I want to talk to your listeners about later. Is making your hobbies tax deductible. Which
let's go right into that. But before we jump into that, I just want to share kind of a little recap on your first story about the Practical Joke Company, and just a reminder. And it sounds like this is a perfect segue into, like you're saying, about monetization and tax deductible is what comes to mind. But you were being creative, having some fun, and then figured out a way you actually were making money doing the goofy parties, and you had this persona, and then you ended up building up a team of 30 plus people that were working with you. And it just goes to show you, like, if you have a creative idea, now if Tom went to someone and said, "Hey, this is my idea," and the first 5 people shoot it down, right? You may say, "I don't think there's not a concept or whatever." It's just
to me that would have been okay. I got to do it.
But you would have done it. That's my point. You're the kind of wired guy like myself that says, like, once someone tells you can't do it, all of a sudden, I don't know what it is, but that's more powerful than saying, "Yeah, Mike, I think you can do that." And someone says, "Nah, you can't do that." Ooh, now all of a sudden. But the point is,
what that means, Mike, is they can't do it.
They can't do it.
That's what that means.
They're trying to validate the fact that they didn't try. They lack the know-how or something. Absolutely good point. But what I'm trying to spit out is the fact that I really like how you were creative, turned it into something. You did it for a while, and then you had these other, like, dichotomies. Different businesses grew into another arm. The opportunity with a restaurant, nightclub. You're about to share another story here. So I think it's really cool that maybe everyone tuning in doesn't relate to the industries that you were in necessarily, but I want you guys to be inspired by the story of he kept moving forward, he kept trying different things, and he was having fun with it, and also found ways that he could be successful in it. So it doesn't matter what you're doing. The fact is, like, the creativity behind it, the effort behind it. And it sounds like you did everything you did at a high level. Like you had a commitment to yourself is what I can hear in the stories too. So yeah, what's the next level is taking it, your passions to something that you can actually make it tax deductible. Yeah, let's hear it.
Yeah, well, one of my things is I love being in business. I love looking for, nobody chases me for scam tax deductions. All right. I'm not trying to be an evader. Okay. I'm legit. We're in the, we're in the United States. You have listeners around the world, but most countries, business, you have expenses against what you're doing. But there's usually no law that says you have to hate the business you're in. All right. You can absolutely love it. And so one of the examples is, Mike, I have the dubious distinction of being the largest person ever in history to create and star in a tennis training video. It's called fatsotennis.com. You can actually see the trailer at fatsotennis.com where I'm playing tennis and eating a pizza while I'm playing tennis. And and I got the idea because at my tennis club, guess what? Rafael Nadal's not there. Roger Federer is not there. Maria Sharapova's not there. No, they didn't show up at my club. But there's a bunch of fat
the Williams
butts
sisters,
like me.
No?
No, they didn't make it either. So it's a bunch of fat butts like me, older guys trying to beat the younger kids. Sure. And so this DVD set I created was part of it's funny in that it has all the gadgets that fat people can use to help them. You remember that movie with Kevin Costner called Tin Cup? It was about golf. And he was losing his mojo, and he's trying all these crazy gadgets. There's loads of them for tennis. So, for instance, when you're big and fat on the tennis court, you don't want to bend over that much. Right? So there's this thing you can put on the butt of your racket. It's a suction cup, so you can push down and pick the ball up without bending over. So there's all kinds of things. There's special creams so your thighs don't rub against each other too much. It's just all kinds of stuff. So part of it is like that.
Yeah.
And then the rest
Are you telling me
of
so
it
you
is,
enjoyed playing tennis, so then you created this
yeah,
business, so then but the business had to make money or have expenses so you could write that off though, correct? So how did
exactly.
you
Right.
Yeah, so what I
So I
mean, what
created
were you
a
writing
DVD.
off? The DVD?
I
So the
created
production
the
of the
DVD, but
DVD?
see, the production, the ball machine, the rackets, the strings. I went out and interviewed professional tennis coaches in California. And, so all that stuff I'm just loving every second of it. But it's legitimately because I have this $40 DVD set that I'm selling. So, like I said, part of it's funny, but part of it is all the angles of the courts and the shots. Like, for instance, we played a pickup game somewhere, and this little kid's 14 years old. He's on the tennis team. I'm running the piss out of him. He's mad. He's throwing his racket down. His mother's there. And finally he gets mad and walks off the court. And his mother's chasing him like, "Oh, Joey, it's okay. No problem." And if I'd have done that when I was a kid, I'd have been running laps till I was 40 years old. Right? But I ran the crap out of him because he didn't understand slice. He's used to big, heavy topspin that bounces high. I'm hitting him in his feet. You can't run the kid to death because he's young. He's like a deer. But the old folks that play with me, I can run them till they have a heart attack.
Sure.
So
I'm also a tennis player, by the way. I haven't played in a minute, but I played in high school. And to me, it was always what I loved about it is mano y mano. It's me versus you.
Exactly. I don't like doubles. I hate doubles.
I played a little bit of doubles, but I always preferred singles. But, I'm all about team sports, too, because it's cool about the camaraderie and how everybody comes together. And I'm a big football fan. I got my Air Allen for Josh Allen on today. But my point is, like, with tennis, it's just like, if you lose, like, there's no finger pointing except for yourself. And it really, like, the best tennis players, the thing that separates them from what I've studied and what I've learned playing the game is not so much about the extra things they can do. It's about really wearing someone down, making mistakes. Like if you can get the other person to just make one extra mistake than you do, that's really it. So it's about putting them in position. It's not so much about always hitting winners. It's about really just staying on the point, staying in it, right? And eventually the other person's going to make a mistake. I had a friend in high school. I was on a team, like I said, and he was more athletically gifted than me, a little faster, a little bit more slim, had maybe even a better shot than me. But he would always he ended up double faulting a lot, and also like there's a certain spot if I hit it to him and he was in like a certain range, I started to learn about when he was going to swing down and hit the net. And so I would like get him going in a rally, and then eventually I knew, all right, I got him. I set him up, get him in that range, and like 9 out of 10 times he'd hit that net. And it was like, so it wasn't about me trying to whistle something past him or whatever. So I just learned that, and tennis is something I absolutely love. And I've gone to see Nadal actually up in Canada win the Rogers Cup about a decade ago now. So yeah, very cool.
Well, yeah, it's a lot in your mind. So I'm teaching the big old fat people how to run the young kids to death, and then you got to know the tricks too. So if you're let's say you're on a public court and there's 4 courts, right? Mm-hmm. You never take the one near the fence. You take one that's in from the fence. That way, when you go down to pick a ball up, you accidentally kick it with your foot and it rolls to the fence, and you can suck air longer to go get it and bring it back. So the whole thing is like that. I'll send you a copy of the DVD. I don't know if you have
people
a DVD
ever play
player.
with you a second time after they've seen all your antics out there? Did you call back?
Because they thought I'll get him this time, and then I'd do something completely different. But there were some old guys that would just tear me to pieces. They had, some of these guys have been playing 50 years, and they can put spin on the ball that you've never seen before, So anyway, that's just one example of making your hobbies tax deductible. Another one is I have 2 $50,000 German Shepherds sitting in the living room there, and one rescue husky, which is kind of worth nothing or less than nothing. Right?
Sure.
But I was doing a big event for a big protection and bomb dog company. I was doing a day of training. And instead of charging them $20,000, which they're a relatively small company, I said, you give me a fully trained protection dog and I'll do it for you. And so they gave me a $50,000 dog. They were so happy with what I did for them. And then I got into it. I thought, this is great, but the extra training that those dogs need for maintenance because they can do so much damage, it was expensive. So I started ProtectionDogsElite.com, and there's my models for the thing, and then I take orders and pass them on to the trainers, and I get a 25% commission because I know a lot about dogs, but I'm not a professional protection dog trainer. So that turned into a business.
Yeah.
So it's stuff
you
like
are
that.
Always coming up with that next crazy idea, but you're just crazy enough to actually do it. Which I love. Well, that's why I wanted you on the show. I didn't know what this conversation. I had no idea that the first 25 minutes of what we just talked about was going to be what we just talked about at all, which is great because sometimes you do. I've done 140 plus interviews, and I've had tremendous guests in different walks of life and different levels of success. And I always go back to I had an Olympic gold medalist on the show and all kinds of really cool stories. But sometimes you there's the common denominators and the conversations kind of feel a little bit like, okay, I can relate to this because I've had so many similar conversations. I've never had this conversation in my life, guys. I have no idea where we're going to go. We're actually super late to the break. I want to give some love to our sponsors. And, so what we're going to do is, actually, it's not me. Tom is about to drop some golden marketing wisdom. One of the other reasons I wanted you on the show is for your marketing background too. And so he's going to drop some golden marketing wisdom on y'all. So don't run away. We're going to be back in 2 quick minutes. Podcasting is a great way to engage with your audience and stay consistently relevant. The only problem is you don't have the time or desire to produce your own show. You simply want it done for you. And that's where Social Chameleon comes in. All you need to do is press record and upload the files. We'll handle the rest. From planning, production, post-production, distribution, and digital marketing, we have you covered. We realize that times are tough and funds are tight. And Social Chameleon believes in building supportive business relationships. By clicking on the link in this promo, we'll provide you 7 free podcasting tips to get started, as well as a free 30-minute online consultation. This is the perfect opportunity for entrepreneurs, keynote speakers, industry experts, influencers, and anybody who has a personal brand. With Social Chameleon, we help you build a brand that is out of this world. We're ready and waiting, so what are you waiting for? Click on the link to get started today. Hey guys, it's Mike. I'd like to give a proper shout out to Navigator Bookkeeping. Look, for a long time, I ran my business without really understanding the full financial picture. I used my gut and my bank account balance to make decisions, which led to some poor choices and constant stress over my business's finances. I knew something needed to change. At the beginning of 2021, I made a decision that helped pave a more clear path for my business. I started working with Navigator Bookkeeping. Since then, my bookkeeping has been handled for me. I now understand the full financial story of my business, making important financial decisions much easier now, and it helps me plan for where my business is going. I highly recommend giving Navigator Bookkeeping an opportunity to help your business. Check them out at navigatingyourbooks.com. Again, that's navigatingyourbooks.com. It's time to know the full financial story of your business. We're back in action with Tom Antion, and you guys can connect with him on social media. Also, check out his website, antion.com. He has a free offer too. I'm going to let Tom share that with you and where you can get that offer. And we're, like I said, right before the break, I kind of set us up for some golden marketing wisdom. So no pressure at all, Tom. Let us know what that freebie is. And we're going to sit back like a group of California gold miners here for a minute and just looking forward to what you can throw. But I do have a question that I'd like to set you up with so you have a little bit of direction, because marketing we could talk about for 5 more hours. Growing an email list in 2022. I want to see if you have a list once you finally get it. So how do you get it? What do you do with it? And so that's kind of the direction I wanted to start with. But before that, what's the offer that you have up your sleeve?
Well, one of the things that I really like to do is teach people how not to fight with their computer, how to use the powerful stuff that's on their cell phones and tablets, because that time they're fighting with their computer could be spent with prospects and customers and developing products and services. So I wrote a book called How to Automate Your Business, and it's all the tips and tricks that I use that makes me lightning fast responding to people. They can't believe somebody at my level would get back to them so fast, and all those kinds of tips and tricks. And just one of the tips in the book has saved me, we estimated a couple years ago, 7.5 million keystrokes. I'll just tell you that one now. It's called shortkeys.com. It's for the PC. If you have a Mac, you could use Keyboard Maestro. And what it is a macro program. So I can make a 2 key thing that I hit, and it could type in War and Peace if I wanted. So when you're in my position, you get the same questions over and over again in any kind of business. So this way, I just hit boom, boom, A1, boom. It types in this massive response, and people can't believe it. I can still customize it. So that's just one of the tips. It's a $20 investment one time for this. You know, so most of this
and
stuff
you could customize it. Like you could have like Shift A be this, Shift B be that.
Oh yeah, yes. You customize the short keys, but also once the message is put in, I can customize the first part of it if it's something that's not in the short key. So I can say, oh, Joe, I can put your name in. Hey, Mike, here's what you were talking about, but check this out. And then boom, I took care of that person lightning
fast. That's really good because I can tell you I am someone who doesn't go to bed until I respond to all my emails, and I'm very, you know, and I think they're the same thing. Like, man, how am I getting, like, there's a lot for me to get back to here.
Are you PC or Mac?
The day. I'm a Mac guy.
Okay, so Keyboard Maestro is
Keyboard Maestro. Yeah, I'll check it out.
I mean, it'll take you several days to load it up with answers and learn it, but then it saves you millions of keystrokes, and it makes you lightning fast taking care of people.
Right. Yeah, that's awesome.
So anyway, you can get that, pick up that book. We sell for $27 on the site, but it's yours free because of Mike. And it's Antion.com. Excuse me, it's not Antion.com. It's my podcast site, screwthecommute.com/automate free. screwthecommute.com/automate free. And we also have a podcast app at screwthecommute.com/app. That's APP.
Cool. Real quick, I know I asked you the question about email marketing, but Screw the Commute is your podcast name. What was the concept of that? I don't know if I
never had a job.
Commuting. Oh, I got you.
Yeah, I never had a job.
I was thinking about the commute is when a lot of people listen to podcasts on the commute.
No. I mean,
the commute. That's when I'm listening to my podcast is on the commute.
Well,
so I got you.
Well, here's the thing: if you're doing radio interviews and they give you an option, of, you know, I've done tons of publicity, 1,000 interviews. If they give you choices of times when to do the radio interview, you pick morning drive or afternoon drive because the amount of people is, 50 times more, and they're captive right there. But on podcasts, you get, you don't know when people are going to listen to them.
Yeah.
But Screw the Commute is based on the fact,
riding a bike or doing whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. So Screw the Commute is based on the fact I never had a job, and that if you look at my resume, it kind of looks like BS because I've lived 2 or 3 lives because I'm not sitting in traffic making somebody else rich for my 40. Now it's 40, I forget, 48 years in business. I know you can't believe it with my little baby face here, but
I know,
right? I've been around
you started when you were 3. You started off, you were hired. You were doing parties when you were 3 years old.
Actually, 10 years old when I started hustling.
10 was your first hustle?
Yeah. Yeah. All right. So back to your question about email.
Yeah.
So here's the thing. If people look me up on social media, I don't look that hot. I'll admit that up front, and I'll tell you why. The reason is I've been around so long. I've seen all the comes and goes of all these social media and stuff like MySpace. Sorry, MySpace was the all be all. Boom, out of it. So I don't jump on anything. I use what I call dull edge technology. I don't jump on anything until it's proven all the bugs are out. They call it bleeding edge because it's the most expensive and the most bugs and everything. So I don't jump. I didn't get on Facebook till they had 1 billion users. All right. So, I mean, I had a presence there, but I didn't use it at all. So, so I know these places come and go. So I use them. And there wasn't any when I first started in 1994. It was when the commercial internet started. That's when I started. So I use the social media to get them the heck off the social media. That's why I have 100,000 email subscribers in a field that everybody hates. My list is called Great Speaking, which I started out in the professional speaking market as selling to them, and then it's expanded to everything now. But the one dial turn by Mark Zuckerberg, you disappear off the face of the earth. You don't own all those likes and followers or anything, but I own my email list. So to me, social media, and I know you're what is it called? Social Chameleon.
Social Chameleon. Yeah.
I
but
know
we're a podcast agency. We're a podcast agency that does social content, but yeah.
Okay. All right. Yeah. But the social media to me is a necessary evil to get people the heck off of there onto your email list. So I want people to think of that all the time because they own that. And everybody at my level to this day, no exception, makes the big money on email. There's no question about it. You see everybody yapping about this, that, and the other.
That's the conversion tool. Yeah, right there.
Yeah.
I'm going to agree to disagree with you a little bit on some of that stuff. I'm a little bit more of I like to ride the wave a little bit because I feel like, there's connections and things that if you're not as active in something, even if it's gone tomorrow or gone in 3 years. I mean, Facebook's been going strong since 09 now, and it's 2022. So, there's a lot of people who've been extremely successful thanks to some of these apps and stuff. So I would say to the audience, I agree with you and get them to where you want to take them as far as the conversion. I'm not arguing with you there. You're obviously been super successful with it. But I also wouldn't discourage someone to at least ride the wave, get dirty, learn, get there. And I know you're doing that too, because I know you're.
Well, no, I totally agree with that. It's just that at the point that it came around, I was already a multimillionaire. So it's hard for me to spend the time doing all the stuff you got to do to be. But if you were just starting now, hey, you got to pay your dues, and that's the game you play. But I do have a tip that's going to save people a fortune in time. Did you ever hear of Mari Smith?
Mari Smith doesn't ring a bell.
She's a very tall, nice-looking blonde lady, but she's like one of the top Facebook consultants. A couple years ago, she came out and said, people are over-posting. See, everything is about engagement. And so people were posting every day because in the old days, that was what you did. But then they'd have zero anything. And so they're just basically, you're a drummer, right? So let's pretend your forehead was the drumstick.
Right.
You wouldn't get too far, would you? You're like beating your head against the social media all day long and nobody on earth is seeing it. So she said, and I totally agree, you back off, make really great posts, and then beg, borrow, and steal other than don't buy engagement, but get your friends and everybody to engage, and then you'll start growing. Now, are you familiar with micro tests?
Yes, but I just want to make sure we don't run past that thought. I really like the idea of not forgetting that, content, really good content is king, right? So the quality content that is engaging is always going to be, senior to just the quantity, right? And so I do agree with that. And I think some people just post because they feel like, it's Monday and I have to post. But if you take an extra half hour and think of something creative, maybe it doesn't get posted till Tuesday or Wednesday. But it's the right, you're doing it and it has purpose behind it. I feel like purpose and vulnerability, which I think is another topic that you cover, right, is super important because people will resonate with it rather than you just keep slapping them with, like you said, the forehead hitting the wall or the drum. Yeah. Very, very good insight on that.
So another refinement to that, and I mean, once a week is enough if you make really great posts that people want to share and so forth. But anyway, you got levels of engagement. So you have a like is the lowest level, a share is next, a save is higher than that. But the concept of micro testing, hardly anybody knows about. And micro testing means that when you make a post in virtually all the social media, within the first hour, they're watching to see if you're getting any engagement. And if you don't, that's the end of it. It's done. Yeah. You just did it for nothing.
They're not going to bring it out of the dead tomorrow to try to circulate.
No, and they're thinking, why should we waste our bandwidth for this piece of crap you put up that nobody, even your buddies, don't like? So this is why you don't post in the middle of the night when nobody's on. And this is why when you do post, you back it up with email to people that love you and tell them, hey, and explain it to them behind the scenes that, hey, I really need you to help me out in this first hour or so. I'm going to do it at 3:00 Eastern time. Will you jump on and say hello or do something? I mean, yeah, I'm not above priming the pump like that, because as soon as that engagement happens in the micro test period, within about the first hour is when the social media platform says, oh, they like that. We'll show it to more of their followers, because you only, I mean, 0.5% of your followers see it now if you don't get any engagement.
That's crazy. Yeah. That's really good. Yeah, definitely. Look, if you're doing something, it's the right thing and you're helping people out, whatever your product, service, or message is, and you believe in it, then why is it? It's not wrong to tell, hey, I want you to really check this out. You feel you can help them, you're doing something good. I think a lot of people, when they're scared to get like, oh, I don't know, I already asked them, or I already emailed them last week about this. It's like, do you really not care about what you're talking about? Because, I mean, you shouldn't be afraid to get the message out if you really believe. Like, you're not sold on your own message. You got to go back and figure that out.
Right. Yeah.
If you're afraid to talk to people about it again. Yeah. I love the fact that that you hit on that. And I hate the fact that we only have about 10 more minutes until we have to land the plane, so to speak. But there's one thing I'm not going to have us not talk about. So I wanted to get this on the show. It caught my attention, and it's because it's a really good title. And you're creative in your titles to get people to sign up to your courses and sign up for your email list. But the name of this webinar is 20 Ways You Could Be Robbed by a Sociopathic Seminar Leader. So we don't have time for all 20. We don't have time for 20. For the sake of brevity, can you give us three examples that people are how they're getting robbed by sociopathic seminar leaders?
Yeah. So I've had an article has been seen hundreds of thousands of times. I have a show in Development Hollywood called Scam Brigade. I'm known as kind of a consumer advocate, especially in the seminar industry, because it's ripe for these sociopathic people to rob you. So one would be stooges in the crowd. So they get people to stand up that are paid to give testimonials on how great some big program is, and then they everybody else, it's social proof to them because they don't know it's a stooge, and so they go buy the thing and then they get ripped off. The right of rescission rule is usually ignored, and they tell you you're going to fill out an application to get in our program, and we'll let you know in a few days if you're accepted. Well, that's BS. If you have money, you're accepted. But the BS, extra BS part is they wait till after it's actually a contract, and after the 3-day right of rescission, which is a kind of a federal and state thing where you can just, get your money back after 3 days to stop from high pressure sales. But they let that period pass before they even talk to you about being accepted or not. And if you've changed your mind, too late. It's past the 3 days. You signed the contract. So that's another one. Another kind of really insidious one is came from the real estate industry, where they want to teach you to use your credit cards to buy real estate and flip it or do whatever you're going to do. And so in the first day of the seminar, they teach you how to raise your credit card limit from 30 to 100,000, let's say. And then that's just conveniently at the end of the seminar, how much their training costs. And so they max out your credit card to pay them, and then screw you. You don't have to. That's just 3 out of 20 or 30.
Yeah. I had, it wasn't a webinar or seminar, but I had a, and I'm careful. I'm not trying to call anybody out, and they may be legitimate as far as how they help you down the road once you sign up. But I had an organization come out to me, reach out to me, about, startup investing. And even though we're not necessarily in the startup phases anymore, we're 5 years in business, but, investor rounds and getting into like a, be like multiple workshops throughout the year and being in this mastermind group. And there's all these different benefits to join this thing. And they said they identified our company. They interviewed me. I did basically like a Shark Tank pitch of my business, and it was supposed to be an accelerator program that only like the top of the top can get into with a really good pitch. And the day I pitched, before I was checking my email at night before I went to bed, new message from someone I didn't recognize the name. Look at it; it's a CEO of this company, supposedly, saying, "Congratulations, Mike. I heard so many great things about your pitch earlier today. We're excited." And I'm actually personally reaching. I don't usually do this, but I'm personally for you now, only for you. I'm writing you this message to let you know that I'd love to accept you into the program, and we're gonna have a follow-up call. So schedule that follow-up call. Read through the materials, all this stuff. So I do the follow-up call. I read the different things that are covered in this accelerator program for young entrepreneurs and people looking for investors, and everything's sounding great. I was really proud of myself. Go through another 1 hour call. So now I'm about 2.5 to 3 hours involved in this process, and they're still telling, "Oh, you're the best. We're so excited to work with you." And then that call ends. Any questions? I ask them about 15 minutes of questions. They answer everything exactly the way I want to hear it. This is beautiful, man. This is so good to be true. My prayers are answered. I get the next follow-up email, and it's like, okay, here's the billing form. It's $6,000 to join the program. I was like, you had me on the phone for 3 hours. Nobody told me. Now, maybe I'm naive to think that it was going to be free, but the way that they make you were pitching to, like on Shark Tank, there's equity that they get,
exactly.
right?
Yeah.
So I was willing to give something up to be like, hey, if you want to play ball with the company and give us $100,000, we're willing to give you 1%. I wanted to have that conversation, but they didn't have that conversation. They were just, you pay $6,000 to get into our program. I'm like, oh, so you're really just selling me a $6,000 product, but you're telling me that you liked my pitch because that's going to make me feel good. I was like, and for that reason, I'm out. Reverse the whole Shark Tank on him.
You got off easy. Mine's 9,000 to get in, but you know it up front before you even talk to me.
Yeah,
right?
And it's like, and it's not even about the fact that it was $6,000 because I think that's reasonable if everything they did.
Yeah, it's the way they did it.
The way they did it, 3 hours of calls, and not once did I hear they didn't even say we need the money now or there is money or nothing. It was like just play dumb until he has to actually pay it, and then it backfired. But no, so that's interesting. There's a lot of, you got to be careful out there.
I'll give you the link to that whole article. It's got like 21 or 22 things that if this happens to you at a seminar, you're getting ripped off.
Send me any links based on our conversation that would be supporting to this. So I know we're coming to the end here, and you've spoken over 3,000 times, 12 different countries. You've been paid a tremendous amount to do that for your expertise, right? So I'm going to have you try to dial it back to a message right now to our young entrepreneurs, and they could be older entrepreneurs or anywhere in between, tuning in. And maybe they feel like, they've just been put through the ringer, right? Maybe they have different varying levels of success, but they're at this point right now where they just feel like, they need something. They're not questioning it, but they're almost like at the last thread, right, of hope. And you're just talking to them directly right now, and you want to inspire them to get to that next level. What are some of the things that come to mind to help that person?
Well, the number one thing that I've been preaching for 22 years now since this first happened is if you concentrate on the digital product world, you can mess up tremendously and still make it because it's 97% profit. When I heard your guy, PJ, wonderful guy, persistent, consistent, build up this big airline thing, I'm thinking, oh my God, I could never do that. I'd like to sit home, hit the keyboard, and watch the money come into my checking account. He's delivering stuff all over the airport. I mean, and more power. I love people like that aren't me. I don't want that.
PJ Mastracchio at your gate, just giving a little shout out to my buddy,
wonderful
PJ.
guy, had really was behind him all the way, and the persistence and taking care of people, love it, but not me. I'm that way, but since the digital world came along, I didn't know what I was doing when I first started, but I made it because the profit margins were so big, 97% profit. Nobody has that. It's only credit card fees and a little bit. You're selling electrons, basically.
Yeah, nobody's putting a gun at your head either, like at the bar.
Yeah, nobody's hitting me with beer bottles. And even if you're already in too deep in a business, if you're a landscaper, if you're run an ice cream shop, there are numerous places like that that make more money on a digital aspect to their business. You're saying, I'm a landscaper. I cut grass. What do you mean landscaper? People are sponges for do-it-yourself, how-to stuff. You do simple ebooks. We do ebook masterminds all the time. The last one I wrote was in 4 hours, brought in $2,000 by Monday, wrote it on a Friday. My biggest effort is I wrote one in 4 hours at a layover. I wish PJ would have been there because I was hungry. But, I wrote it in 4 hours. As of this morning, it's brought in $3.69 million.
Yeah, that's
all right. And that's through residual affiliate programs. I tell you how to do something in the book, but you can't do it unless you buy the tool to do it. And I keep getting paid forever on it. So if you can concentrate on digital stuff, that's going to either save your physical business or take it from a little bit profitable to way profitable, because you can bring in money from around the world, not just in a local service area.
Right.
So that would be my main things. Get into digital information products, because the low risk, super high returns.
Yeah. And it could be ultra specific on this industry you're helping out. It could be people who are landscapers and you're actually serving them and teaching them like their first couple of years. That's a very niche market, but there's people there willing to pay, and but yeah, find out that thing that you have the kind of the superpower, the gift to help that space. And there's typically almost any category now you can monetize, right?
You can research it too. You don't even have to know what you're talking about.
Yeah, you don't have to spend
You can interview
years.
A bunch of experts and do an interview book.
Yeah. You don't have to go to school for 4 years anymore and waste hundreds of thousands of dollars to try to get into a profession. You could do it listening to a podcast, an ebook, but
Well, you can go to
Audible,
those schools and
whatever.
then compete for jobs at Starbucks if they haven't all closed down.
Yeah, it's so true. Yeah, it's so true. You mentioned a number that jumped off when you said it. I was like, whoa. I know guys that get paid $100,000 per speaking engagement. And you mentioned that you've received that. Talk to people like myself in the audience who are entrepreneurs, but also enjoy teaching and they enjoy sharing wisdom. And I do it through podcasts. I do it as a guest on shows, but also would love to get back on the stage because, the pandemic kind of slowed that all up.
Yeah.
And there's people like coming back to that mindset again. And they want to monetize it, but it's not just, hey, I want to do this to make money. It's the really truthful people that have something valuable to say and get paid for it. How would you advise them to get into that business?
Well, like I said, I could have quit 22 years ago. I had multimillionaire status, and it's in my blood to help small business people, not big business, small business people. But there's two things with speaking. You have to be great on stage, and I can't tell you the number of people that sent me their videos and said, I'm great on stage. I just need the business end to make the money. And I look at their video and I'm like, great compared to what? I mean, like a like a sick donkey? What? I mean, I'm talking about professional level, greatness. And that's when I wrote the book, Wake 'em Up, because I still use the techniques today in this book. So you have to be great at the professional level on stage, but then you have to know the business of speaking. I actually have a webinar is how to maximize the value of any speaking engagement. And it's all the things you can do to raise the amount of money that you pull in and the amount of celebrity status. See, because if you get celebrity status in an industry, I'm not saying a household name, your fees are way higher because you're more well known.
Sure.
So that's a combination of publicity, being great on stage, podcast interviews, radio, TV interviews, all that stuff.
Yeah.
But you have to have something that's cool to sell at the back of the room. And I've done, when I stand on stage, I'm looking at $1 million day, not 100,000. And you say, well, that sounds like BS, Tom. Well, let me tell you how it works. So usually at seminars, it's 5,000 or 6,000 to get into my program, which is the most unique, longest running, most successful ever in internet and digital marketing. So you spend an immersion weekend at this big multi-million-dollar retreat center. We have a TV studio. We shoot your videos. It's all one-on-one. We don't lump you in any groups. So it's a really cool program. But the way it's structured is guys at my level, many of which were ripoffs, were charging $50,000 or $100,000 up front to supposedly help you. And then they would disappear off the face of the earth once they got your money. So I flipped that and kind of made them all mad in that I charge an entry fee, and then my success is tied to your success. So for me to get my 50,000, you have to net 200,000. Well, people kind of love this because they knew I wouldn't disappear on them. And 1,700 plus students later, it's still going strong. So if I sell 20 or 30 people from a couple hundred people, then I get the 100,000 up front. Part of it goes to the promoter, but then the 50,000 on the back end is where the super big money comes.
Right, and you're making money after the fact, like
it's based on their success.
Exactly.
So they all love it because they know I'm there to help them, and they trust me because I don't get my money unless they make money.
But so also, I'm just thinking about the state. Yeah, the people who are looking to make money or a career out of doing talks. It's not just getting paid for the moment and the 15-minute talk, the 30 an hour that you might get. That's really when you're starting the relationship with the audience. Everybody if there's 300 people in the room, it's 300 one-on-one relationships are being born that day because they're seeing you, they're liking you, they're not trusting you yet. You have to earn their trust. There's 300 different variables but most of them will check out your website. Maybe they'll get your free book at the back of the room. In your book, you drop some gold, as I call it. And then, in the back of the book, there's a way for them to go to the website, get a free course, something. And now you get them into your email, right?
Hold that thought a second. You're close, except you started at a bad place.
Sure.
My goal is I want them to love me before I even get in the country I'm speaking in. Okay, so there's techniques to that. So I offer the promoter, hey, I'll do a free a webinar or teleseminar for all attendees before I get there so that give them extra value. I'll do it for sign-up bonuses for them. I'll do come in early, and all early birds that got to the conference early, I'll do a special session for them. So before I even hit the main stage, they already love this guy. And the early birds, after that, I do no selling at that event. When the other people come in and say, oh, you should see this guy, he was great. And now that my place is packed, and all the other sessions are empty. So there's all these professional techniques. Yeah,
that's exactly the benefit of digital. Is you can be present before you actually show up to the event. It's super, super cool. It. I got one more for you here, and I love this, and I can see having you on the show again. I'm not even getting warmed up yet. What are you talking about? I know. We got to do like the 3-hour Rogan style here. Would have been great. But I want to talk about, you're an author of a book. You've written many books and been
25.
successful. 25 books as an author.
Yeah.
But I want you to think about this for a moment. So you're the author and protagonist in your own life story, and you get to write the ending, and God willing, you continue to live a long, prosperous life. You're looking back on it all, and now you're reflecting on it, and you get to define your legacy. What would that be?
I helped crap loads of, trying to keep it not explicit for you, crap loads of entrepreneurs and thousands of dogs and kids. That's it.
That's the summary of it. Yeah, no, that's awesome.
All innocent beings that need somebody to advocate.
Yeah, this has been the most interesting for sure. No questions asked. Only have a second place runner doesn't even exist. Most interesting man I've met so far, Tom. This has been fantastic. I love that you do care about the people. Obviously, you're helping. The creativity behind having a brand and a business that's fun, that you enjoy doing, you're making money doing it. Also, the prankster stuff I think is cool. It's like, hey, you only live once. Let's have some real fun with this. And I encourage anybody to remember that you can have fun at work too. And then the fact that you're still doing it now. I mean, you could have retired, yet you're still giving back to the community that needs you. We still need you, and your success. Is now stemming through all these other budding people who've read your books, been to your webinars or seminars, seen you in person on stage. So greatly appreciate you giving me an hour of your time to bend your ear a little bit here and learn from you. This was tremendous. I had a lot of fun doing it. I have, I guess, one last question. What is behind you? This whole time I've been staring at this weird picture. What is that quote on the picture there?
It's a 2-minute story, but my dad came from you're a paisan, all right? But everybody thinks I am. But no, my dad came from Antioch, Syria, and our name is a mistake because he got to Ellis Island and they couldn't read Antioch, so they called it Antion. You're Sam Antion. But anyway, he, Johnny Cash, right?
Of course,
the country singer. Well, he wrote a song named "A Boy Named Sue," where he was an old drunk cowboy that figured he wouldn't be there to raise his kids, so he named him Sue, right? To make him scrappy and fighty. Well, my dad was 50 when he had me. I'm the baby of 6 boys, and he didn't, he only went to the 2nd grade, but just brilliant guy. And he thought he wouldn't be around to raise me. So from the time I could crawl, he would put my pillows, a pillow in front of me and my toys to teach me how to overcome obstacles. And to this day, I'm unstoppable, and I won't step on anybody or cheat anybody. But if you tell me that I can't do something, you better get it out of the way as I blow by doing it. As we mentioned earlier, that means they can't do it. Doesn't mean I can't do it. We did a big seminar in his honor of leadership principles from a guy that came from Syria on a dung-filled cattle boat. So and everybody signed it. Yeah.
That's awesome. What's the little quote there? There's like a quote or something written on there.
I don't know. Oh, if I can figure out how to get that ball, I'll grow up to be an internet millionaire. I should scratch it and put multi in there.
Multi, yeah. That is a really, really cool story, man. I'm glad I asked that question. You've been doing it since you're crawling, and this is so much fun. And I got 2 things for you to leave you thinking here. Be great and be grateful. And I know you're already doing both of those. Thank you for your time today.
Well, I'm going to send you a tennis DVD. if you still have a DVD player.
Oh man, I could just get the cream ready. Oh man, this is so much fun. Well, thank you again for your time, brother. Right. And I know our audience has really enjoyed that. I
have them get in touch with me. I'm always available. Like I said, most people at my level won't even talk to anybody. I talk to everybody.
Antion.com, Tom Antion. Thank you so much, brother.
My pleasure.
I'd like to give a huge shout out to everyone for tuning in, especially those who listen all the way to the end to hear this message. Seriously, I appreciate you, and my guests do as well. Giving a quick reminder to subscribe to this show. It's completely free and will allow you to receive notifications when new episodes are released. If you'd like to provide a tip as a gift, you can do so via patreon.com/mikedup. It's spelled MIKED up. Patreon.com/mikedup. You can give as little as $1 per month or as much as you'd like. Every dollar is greatly appreciated and completely unexpected. Appreciate your reviews and your messages coming in on social as well. Keep them coming. Your feedback is valuable and absolutely means the world to me. You can check out more episodes and content at mikeduppodcast.com. We're powered by Social Chameleon. You can also follow me on Instagram. That's where I'm the most active, and it's at Mike DiCioccio, MIKEDICIOCCIO. Thank you so much for your continued support. You guys know what to do. Be great and be grateful.